Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Like Harry's channel. This time it is part 2 of reading Spawn of Calamity. This will be chapters 2 and 3. And so yeah, let's get started. 2004, Chapter 2, Time. Time is a construct. Everything comes with a price of time. Everything that is sentient and non-sentient has time. The copper will eventually rust, and humans eventually die and decompose. Everything eventually will die out. But new life will always surface. Today we'll be looking at if this idea is true. Does new life always surface? What about animals that have gone extinct and died out? Is humanity next in line to suffer this fate? Only time will tell. But is there anything we can do to prevent this outcome, or is it inevitable for all to end? The coin I had been playing with for the past hour as I sat through the boring lesson fell on the floor. As I picked the coin up, I looked over and saw Blaze sleeping through the totally super duper important lesson and thought about slapping him. But someone beat me to it. Zap came over and shocked his butt and made him jump. Hey, head, how often do I have to tell you to not sleep during Mr. Kurok's lessons? One day his information may help you make important decisions in life and stuff. Zap was being sarcastic, but Blaze didn't realize. Blaze responded, "Oh, shut it, Sparky. All you know how to do is be quiet and pay attention. Anyway, I'll just burn right through those decisions with the ones I make. Also, it's not my fault that every word he says feels like someone talking at 0.25x speed." Zap walked back to her chair angrily and continued listening. A couple of hours after listening to the white noise in Mr. Croak's voice, it was time to train. As I walked out of the door, Mr. Croak said something to me that sounded strange. "Keep your friends away from the things that will steal time from them and keep them safe. Spend as much time with them as you can. That's what it's all about." I left with that thought planted in my head. The beautiful flowing world felt like a relief from the worry that had built up around me. I took a look at my friends and then smiled, knowing that any danger that comes our way we can figure it out together. I walked over to the giant tree Life had made and sat down, leaning against the monstrous trunk. The sun felt like a blazing iron, so I cast a shadow around myself for shade. The rushes of the tree and the calls of the birds beckoning me from afar were like music to my ears, and I closed my eyes. I started to drift back into a slight nap. "Life, I need to talk to you about something important." The word startled him as he stood up from the bench he journaled on. Walking past, his eyes took a glimpse at the tree he had created and saw Chiaroscuro drifting off into sleep. The hallways had a darker look than usual, and a sense of loneliness flooded over me. As Life stepped into Charles's office, he knew that this was different, that this was not some normal checkup or preparation for New York. It was off. He looked around and saw Frost, Zap, and Blaze with worried looks on their faces. "Thank you for coming in so quickly. Come on, we have to get going," said Charles anxiously. "What's going on? Why are we leaving in such a hurry?" "New York is starting to collapse in on itself, and if we don't hurry and get you over there, the entire state will be lost, and it could spread to other places." Life searched for an answer for minutes, trying to find what could be the cause of the spread and decay of all things. Thoughts started to pile all over his brain to the point of overthinking. He tried to condense his thoughts down, but things were moving too quickly. Next thing you know, they were already leaving the facility. The helicopter hummed loudly as they prepared for takeoff. This was what he had been dreading for the past few days, and now he was here, frightened by the thought of going outside of the lab, like a feeling of agoraphobia flashing over him, not wanting to leave the place he had called home for the past 4 years. Now that he was 16, the harsh reality was setting in. Life reached for his seatbelt and felt the cold metal lock him in place. Ready or not, it was time for me to fix the disaster. Then, faster than ever, they took off to save all of New York and millions more from particular decay. The grim sunset had shown an awful look over the city, and all the skyscrapers and towers had stood to rubble. Life looked around at the helicopter, at the frightened faces of his friends who came to escort him. None of them have ever been to New York, but they have seen the pictures and read about it. It was truly devastating to see such a place in disrepair. A big hole in the ground around where the Empire State Building once stood, now an empty shell. "Hey, Life, Do you think this was the thing we were talking about? That some other power besides something natural could have done this? Said Frost. I don't know, Frost, but all I know is that whatever it is, we cannot let it get further out of hand than if we want the world to survive. The helicopter landed on top of an old hospital helipad, and that was now on the ground and cleared out for them to land. A slight shift in the rubble seemed to scare Blaze out of his mind. Man, it hasn't even been 5 minutes since we landed and I already hate it here, said Zap. No building ever stood anymore, not even the small supermarkets or schools. Our point of interest is inside that giant hole in the ground. It is one of the midpoints of New York City, and from there life can use its powers, said Charles. They started to move toward the inner layer of the city. Blaze tripped over broken streetlights, among other things, quite a few times. So, Life, you think you can fix all of this? Said Frost. My power includes creating matter and filling in gaps, so I think I can make it work. Have you ever healed an entire city? Frost pointed at the city overgrown with moss. I'm 14. But I hope that my body will allow me to, Life responded. Whatever you say, Life. If you think you can do it, then I believe in you. A broken power line blocked the path of where they needed to go. The wires created a popping sound when they sparked against a nearby puddle. Hang on, guys. Let me get this one. Zap touched the electrical wire and started converting the flow of electricity to her own body and adjusting to take in all the power of the power line. What a refreshing feeling. I've never felt that level before, she said with a relaxed look, amused by the power. I wonder what that feels like. Is it tingly or does it sting? Asked Life loud enough that he only heard himself. Blaze ran carelessly to get a better look at the hole. Trailing the streets with fire, he ran. What an idiot. I love him. They continued to get closer to the hole and started to see how deep it was. Whoa, that goes deep, said Blaze. Zap looked over at Blaze with a stupid look. What did you expect? Said Zap. Frost looked around and realized that Charles was nowhere to be seen. Wait, guys. Why is Charles not here? He hadn't followed us since we got off the helicopter, said Frost with an anxious look. Things didn't seem to be adding up right to Frost. Was it right to leave a 16-year-old with a couple of younger teens in the middle of the danger zone? I guess the U.S. government is afraid of things that could have higher power than them, said Blaze with confidence. The ground started to rumble and creatures made of concrete and debris formed from it. Their bodies resembled that of humans without any of the general features, leaving faceless monsters without any emotions. Guys, we have a problem, Frost said, worryingly. He shot shards of ice at the creatures to try and knock them down, but they wouldn't stop coming. Life grew some roots to contain the creatures and pulled them to the ground. Life walked up to examine one of the creatures. Its features extended and retracted like it didn't know if it was supposed to be alive or dead. The arms on it reached out in a grotesque and tried to grab Life by the neck, but were quickly stopped. A large mouth opened up and snarled loudly. Multiple whispers and voices combined to form a sentence. You are one of the ones he searches for. The makeup of the creatures retracted and things returned to normal. That was the weirdest thing I have ever seen, said Frost. Life was still trying to comprehend the words that were spoken to him. Who is the person searching for him, and what do they want? Life, are you okay? Frost said as he ran over with Zap after helping Blaze out of a pile of rubble he was knocked into. We should continue with the mission if everyone is okay, Life said. Life found a ladder that the government had set up for them, and they climbed down one at a time. Dripping and the sounds of water running were sounding all around. Each step got more damp as they reached the bottom of the cave. I can hardly see a thing, said Zap. She seemed to be the most afraid out of all of them, rightfully so. Allow me to be of some use. Blaze started to spin his hands around and threw a small ball of fire in front of them. The area ignited around them, revealing a big cave with a tree in the middle of it. Can a tree even grow down here? Said Frost. Life walked up to the roots and placed his hand on them, feeling the low amounts of energy that were still there. Life closed his eyes and began to use his power. The ground beneath them started to move. The clouds that hovered over the sky started to part and sunlight shone through. For the first time since they had arrived, things started to go well. Life thought about how you could change the city to look like it did originally and felt like the best way to start was fixing the ground. The platform around the tree from which we were standing was now around 30 feet above the ground. Hey, do you think I could get down? Zap looked at Life with a frightened expression. Calm down, Zap. We'll be down in a couple of minutes, I'm sure, said Blaze. This may take a bit longer than I had anticipated, Life said. Call Charles and tell him to pick you guys up here. I'll create a temporary helipad. Life ripped the ground apart and molded it into a space for landing. The dusty surroundings turned into an area of flowing life and growth. Life used his power to control the roots to pick up the debris and start repairing buildings. Each time he would finish a building, he would think of the people that once worked there and those that lost their lives. Tears formed around his eyes at the thought of this. A new view jumped into his head. One of the mangled creatures they fought earlier. Who was the one that wanted to find us? Could he be the one that had done all this death, and for what? I couldn't think of why anyone would go to these lengths for something. Loud blades buzzed overhead and started to land on the new helipad. Charles was the first to exit the chopper and waved for them to go over. About time you decided to show your face, Charlie, Blaze exclaimed. Blaze says he used his flip phone given to him to call Charles. Where were you when we had to walk the streets through the dangerous streets? Charles looked over at the group sternly. I'm sorry I left you all. I had some serious business I needed to take care of. Charles looked over and saw Life in some sort of meditative state. So is he coming with us or not? Said Charles. Frost replied. He said he is staying to finish his work, but he doesn't know how long it will take. Then let us get out of his way, Charles ordered. Everyone hurry up. We'll hover until he's done. Everyone boarded and they flew a safe distance back. About 15 minutes in, Life started making huge progress. Most of the buildings were almost finished, and the city was coming back together. Things started to feel peaceful after feeling all the dread. He found himself opening his eyes to get a better look. It was beautiful, looking at the sunrise over the empty city. Then he thought of his family, the ones who had helped him do the things he did. At last, he finished rebuilding the last skyscraper. The tree stopped glowing in energy, and he started to feel tired and started to drift into a relaxing sleep. The dream looked like New York after he fixed it. Life found himself questioning if this was a dream or if he was awake. He had total control over his mind and body. The sky had a purple glare over the night. Feels like this is not our universe, but another, he thought. He got off the ground and walked to the edge of the platform. Things here felt like the other dream he had, where everything was extraordinary. It felt like he was flying over the earth without care. The array of feelings was almost too much to bear. Could this be what we could accomplish, or is this the opposite? The sky suddenly burst into an array of tears, and the same creatures from before started to appear, although they weren't attacking him. Instead, they were friendly. The hands of these things almost looked human, with contorted features that were mangled all over them. They startled Life by trying to speak. The things they said didn't match the environment. Follow us to your destination. There you can finally find freedom. Reluctantly, he followed them, knowing he could wake up if any trouble arose. They led him down to the streets in the middle of an intersection. Looking around, nothing seemed wrong except the feeling of relief was no longer there. Wait here for him to come, then all of your problems will finally be solved. Finally, he will be strong enough to bring forth his world. He started feeling a sense of dread coming from the air and knew this could be the time to wake up. But before he did, he wanted to get a good look at whoever could be behind this. The wind started to swoosh around violently, and metal infrastructure started breaking off from buildings. There was no natural disaster now. Watching this caused him to start thinking that our theories of someone being behind this could be true. As soon as he started to think, he appeared. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Change. I awoke from a long nap at around 6 p.m. The sky was starting to go into the sunset with its powerful light. I noticed that the tree I was sleeping under seemed as if it was smaller than earlier. This could mean a lot of things that I chose not to think further about. I stood up with the energy I had just gained to walk around. The door to the facility was just around 20 feet away, and I wanted to get inside. Usually there were scientists or guards near the entrance, but no one was there. I walked inside with caution as the surrounding area did not feel the same as it normally did. Bright, white LED lights buzzing overhead illuminated the dark gray corridor run with tile flooring. It was so quiet that I could hear the faint sounds of the ventilating air. "Hello?" I called out, expecting a response from anyone that could be near. But silence came with its loud shriek. It felt like that silence was surrounding worse than if a gunshot went off right by my ear. I became frightened by the fact that I could just be a kid, all alone in the middle of a giant facility. I thought that this might be the only time I got to go snooping around, so I did. I walked into the main office of Charles's and found no one. I felt like I let my childish feelings get the best of me and I decided to parade. I even went to the levels of sitting in his mighty chair, to the likes of which I had no right to do. A paper piqued my interest by having a label, "Classified," written over the top of it. It was hanging out of one of the filing cabinets that were not properly closed. It glowed with the over-exaggeration of my senses. I went up to the cabinet and started to pull out the paper when I heard a noise from outside. It was a sound that was very familiar to me. Helicopter blades slicing through the air. Oh crap, oh crap, I said out loud. I quickly yanked the paper out of the cabinet and ran to my room to hide it. Just in time was I able to hide that I had taken it. No one would be finding it because I created a shadow to cover it in one of my drawers. I was not even told that anyone had left or where they had gone, so why would a helicopter be coming back this late? After a couple of minutes, I realized that no one was coming to my room for my checkup, so I unveiled the paper. When I started to read the thick ink that was printed, it left me feeling uneasy. This document was not the normal report that I've heard and seen Charles write. This was from the government. From United States Central Intelligence Agency. Mission briefing. The 4 subjects are to be sent to New York so that the one named life can restore the city to its origins. Have Subject 1 be the leader of the group since he is the oldest. Land close to the area where the Empire State Building was located before the attack. Send the fire team down the prepared ladders at the foot of the building and wait for a change. Make sure all the subjects survive and are mostly unharmed. If anything happens to them, it will be in your hands. Important. Subject number 2, Chiaroscuro. Keep Entity at the facility while the others go on the mission. We have reason to believe there is a reason why his powers are different from the others. In one of your reports, we noticed large energy spikes of light from Chiaroscuro around the same time as the New York attack. These 2 events could have some kind of correlation with each other. The morning after the mission, we are sending a team to come and extract him for further research. The subject is to be taken to. Glass shattered nearby, and a team of people broke through the doors to the lab with mighty triumph. And as soon as I looked up from my paper, I was met by a tranquilizer shot straight into my neck. I felt the liquid seep into my veins, and I started to get dizzy. The walls started to distort and stretch. A washy voice filled my ears. "Sorry, kid, we are only following orders." The agent picked him up and started to carry him to the escort vehicle. The last thing I heard from one of the phones was a girlish voice. "Great job, Agent. Now meet us at the disclosed location." The voice stopped, and my sight became as black as a raven's feather. End of chapter 3. Oh. Oh.